case kind of in the 70s and 80s and then later 90s? Or were these guys always kind of scumbags? What are your thoughts, Judge?
For the most part, I mean, everything I saw fell in the latter category. But I did learn, I learned a lot. I spent 10 years of my life investigating and prosecuting gangsters, mostly John Gotti and Gambinos too. But the one thing I did learn was there was a time, when Gravano flipped, he came to me and said, I want to go from our government to your government.
Yeah.
And there was a time, although it was long before, I was born, really.
Yeah.
Italian immigrants really didn't feel like they had a voice. They didn't really hear in government.
Correct.
So you remember scene in The Godfather where Don Corleone is like dispensing justice on his daughter's wedding day.
Yep.
There was a time when that was roughly accurate. They were like a quasi-government for Italian immigrants. That time has long since passed, and they assimilated into our society. There were later emerging groups, I think, for which that's like roughly accurate now, but Italians in New York. So they were all backstabbing, betraying each other, greedy criminals, as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, and I always say I'm from New Jersey. Most people, if you're new to the show, my cousin married Sammy the Bull's niece. Also, my family was related to John Riggy, and listen, I say this all the time. I'm not a street guy. Grew up around some folks. Just kind of, it is what it is. That's the Italian experience in New Jersey, New York. It kind of is what it is. Not as much now. And I look at it like from the business perspective. And you hit the nail on the head, Judge. Is where things went sideways is when they stopped offering utility. And I'm not saying they were like Robin Hoods, but like if you were an Italian immigrant, or if you were in the neighborhood, or if you were whatever, I think there was a sense there was some utility. But I definitely by the 80s, I think it kind of lost its way. How did you first hear Sammy wanted to flip, and what was that process? Because that's not as simple as he sat with you one time and you convinced him. Give us that process, Judge.
Yeah, that was the single most complicated thing I've ever done as a lawyer. And for a while. Look, he's nobody. There were people after the fact who said they knew Sammy was going to flip, and none of them is right. Nobody that was coming. I would have thought John Gotti would have reached out for me before he reached out for me. But, we're only about 10 weeks before trial. It's almost a full year after the indictment.
Yeah.
He's in the MCC in the detention center with John Gotti.
Yeah.
They're like sharing a cell, for crying out loud. Mm-hmm. And I get a call from the supervisor of the Gambino squad who says, guess what? Sammy wants to talk.
Wow.
Yes, wow is right. My heart was pounding, and the logistics of, what I was told was he wants to talk in circumstances in which, if we don't reach a deal, no one will know we talked. And think about it.
Yeah.
He's with John Gotti in a cell. The only time they leave together to go to court. Yep. How am I going to do this? So, not enough time here to articulate for your fans, for your listeners, all the things I did, but punchline, I arranged a secret meeting with Sammy in a jury room in the courthouse after a lot of